Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at Bullseye. That's the hooded gunslinger you can see on screen right now, and I'd say let's get right into the video. So first and foremost, like always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the latter half of the video I'm going to go over all the perks and equipment, mutations and such. So if you want to see that, just go for basically 15 minutes deep into the video. There you should find all those informations. So as you can see already, we're not going to break any DPS records with this build, and something you should generally be aware of if you want to try out a gunslinger build is that gunslingers in Fallout 76 are notoriously underpowered. So while you can definitely make them work and they can definitely be a lot of fun to play with, they're basically outclassed in every single way by riflemen. So even riflemen aren't the best build, but in general there's nothing that pistols and revolvers and such can do that other weapons can't do better, which is a shame, because honestly the gameplay is enjoyable, it's quite a lot of fun. And in earlier Fallout games, it was always very much possible to go for a very efficient gunslinger if you combine it with VATS, but neither are gunslingers in this game very efficient in VATS, nor do they have anything else going for them really. So the only benefit you could give them is that they are very lightweight, but that should never be your argument to decide whether or not to use a weapon. So honestly, there's not a whole lot of reasons why you should go for a gunslinger other than role playing. That being said, if you already have a character that is well built and can deal with all the new content the game has to offer, and you just want a fun side character to explore the wasteland and do the main quests and such, go for it. It can really be a lot of fun, and it's not as underpowered as you might expect. So once you adapt it to the playstyle here, you can really do a lot of damage and deal with pretty much every situation relatively fairly. So how we're going to overcome the flaws of the character. So basically your biggest flaws when you have a gunslinger are both your ammo capacity and your damage output, as I said earlier. So we are going to tackle the situation by using a quad revolver, Western revolver, which makes us carry 24 bullets in each revolver. So that means we're basically never running out of bullets during a fight. And as you can see here, we're going to use the terrain to our advantage. So you're going to stay on the move for the most time, and therefore you can... oh well, that's a decent drop, I'd say. Not a god roll, but well, anyways. So back to the topic. The gameplay and the character don't allow for mistakes, so it's a very punishing playstyle. If you do something or if you fuck up, you will get hurt for it. So there's a lot of dying involved with this character, especially in the early hours where you're getting this build together. But once you know how to play, it can really be a lot of enjoyment. So as you can see here, what you want to do is you want to memorize VATS a lot. So you really want to always have an eye on your critical meter and learn when it's necessary to use it or when it isn't. So you're not going to use the crit as soon as it's available, which is basically after every 2 shots. And well, I'm kind of tempted to go for the Scorch Beast in order to show you how you do, but as a slight spoiler, it's just it's taking a lot of time and ammo to deal with a Scorch Beast. It's doable, and we do carry a backup weapon for bigger targets, but it serves no real purpose to show you off at this part of the video because it's not the strong suit. So I can already tell you, you want to avoid Scorch Beasts. After all, there's not a lot they offer to you in this game, so while it's cool to have a build that can take them down within seconds, there's basically never any advantage to it. So during the whole game, I think there's 1 or 2 occasions where you have to take down a Scorched Beast, but other than that, they serve no real purpose other than to be flying enemies that annoy you, basically. So just let me say that they are a challenge, they take their time, but you can take them down. That's all you need to know about them, honestly. Back to the video. What I wanted to say is that the weapon we're using is a quad Western revolver with better criticals and a VETS crit meter that fills faster. So it's pretty much perfect for our build here, and a pretty specific weapon to center your build around. But other weapons that would work well with this build would probably be a instigating revolver, any revolver that boosts your critical damage, or, well, an anti-armor one would probably do you very well too. I wouldn't advise Furious, and obviously what would work well is a Junkies or a Bloodied one if you are that build, but as you know by now, I'm focusing on more casual friendly builds here on the channel. So pretty much summed up, there's always going to be this thing that no matter which character you want to build, your best approach is Bloodied or Junkies. So it's kind of boring if I were to always go for those 2 types of characters, because there wouldn't be a lot of incentive to go somewhere else, but the equipment can be quite expensive and hard to come by, so I try to focus on stuff that you can find cheap in the vendor. So for example, this revolver here, even though it's very specific and could potentially be worth a whole lot to someone, I found it for, what was it, I think 2 grand, 2k caps or something. So it wasn't all that expensive, and pretty much it just serves to show off our build. Like, we're going to use criticals to do our damage, and we're going to use the quad to overcome the flaw that we have such a low ammo capacity. But after all, it's not that our revolver behaves a lot of different than any other revolver, or that our build would need to be focused around low health or anything like that. So we can definitely go with this one. Also, alright, now this is what I meant by punishing. Like, I made the mistake to not really take them off in an intelligent way, so I just shot them right away, and therefore now they swarm me. So this is, as I said, what I meant earlier. You want to avoid such occasions. Now we just have to pick them off 1 by 1. And now VETS fails us, obviously. So you're running through a lot of stimpaks with this build, by the way, so it's really not meant to be a endgame build. So this is really just to burn some resources and have fun. But as you can see here, we can manage to deal with the situation fairly easily. It's something you could do with every build, basically. It's not something that this character here is built for or anything, but we're just going to need to do it while using a Gunslinger. So there's more efficient options when it comes to Gunslingers. One I briefly showed off with Captain Cosmos so far was using weapons that are benefiting from the Gunslinger class, but basically aren't Gunslinger weapons. So specifically speaking, the automatic gamma gun and the flamer barrel for the plasma pistol. I just didn't want to use them for this build here, because I assume that most players who want to go for a Gunslinger build have the same feeling like me, that they do want to use something that feels like a revolver or a gun. So if you're using something like the plasma flamer or something, you might as well just go for a guerrilla build. What I would advise you to do is simply to use one of those weapons as a backup. So if you're going against Scorch Beasts or something like that, you can whip out those DPS weapons and deal with the situation accordingly. It's still going to be that 99% of your playtime you will be using your revolver. So especially if you're dealing with ghouls and such. Oh yeah. Look here. The terrain has decided it wants to load in. Wow. Yeah. So Gutsies, you know the thrill with them, they're just a pain in the ass, so that's why they mowed through me so quickly earlier. We're not exactly a tanky build, so with most characters we just want to avoid their attacks. And as you saw here, our crits are devastating, so when it comes to mobs, most mobs go down whenever your first critical hits. So usually you take 2 shots in order to fill your critical meter, and yeah, in this case it had a sliver of health left, but as you saw, you can deal with them pretty much effectively. So you also have the chance to sometimes fill your critical meter. I think we do have 1 rank of 4-leaf clover on, but let me just take something to eat in order to get our AP back. And I think we're now going to see... Alright. Oh, yes. I'm glad we didn't have the reload bug, the score bug, by the way. This is basically my 3rd or even my 4th attempt at this point to record this video. 1 time my game crashed, and 2 times I just had the score bug in the middle of the video where my score meter fills up endlessly, which was very, very frustrating. And this is also a very stupid situation, by the way. This assaultron is bugged in the vehicle here. Oh yeah, sure. Man, that was close. So yeah, I always seem to have a problem with this assaultron because it's always bugged in any way. I mean, it's nothing new to the game, but with this one especially, he always seems to mess up my videos. If you can afford the weight, by the way, you can easily go for a quad rocket launcher here. It's a 2-shot version, by the way, if you're wondering. And it's not the best choice for a backup weapon here, but I thought it was a lot of fun and fits the character quite well. It looks nice to have this rocket launcher on your shoulder. And I do like the target lock on. So as you can see here, it's not the most devastating weapon at our disposal, but it's fun to use. There we go. So I guess we shoot 1 more robot somewhere. We should find one, and then we call it a video here. No, wait. What we're doing is I really want to take on a super mutant in order to show off that. So we did have ghouls so far, but I feel like, yeah, we're clearing. Let's do Huntersville. Let's clear Huntersville, and then we're going to go over the perks and the equipment. I always want to show off some gameplay when I fight super mutants, because I feel like those are some of the toughest enemies you will face in day-to-day combat when playing the game. So we're going to end the gameplay there. This character on screen, by the way, was something I made as a caravaner. Possibly that we're going to revisit that character soon, but who knows. I do have an idea currently about laser rifles. I wanna make a video about them because since the patch 22, energy rifles seem to perform a bit better. I'm not quite sure yet what the deal is there, but I found that I had a lot of fun using them lately, so they're still outclassed by their ballistic counterparts, but they seem to perform a little better, let's say that way. And as you can see here, same as with the robots. Alright, if the damage would register, that would help. Here you can see pretty well that our criticals really do a lot more damage than our standard shots, like 3 times the damage would be my guess. But, well, you can also get in a little bit of sneak from time to time. We're not built for it in any way, but we do have high agility and therefore we're naturally going to have a little boost to our sneak. And you can see here, if we start off with a full AP meter, we can really get some shots here. Especially if our Grim Reaper's sprint, sorry by the way, procs, we're able to do a lot of damage in a close time. So the big revolver, the quad effect really helps us out here. So reloading really becomes a second problem, so it's not a priority anymore, which is great on those weapons here. And yeah, we missed the critical there for some reason. Well, I mean, we didn't miss it, but it didn't register, which is always a shame. But, well. Also with this character, you want to use some cover here and there. As you can see here, we're going for a retreat momentarily, wait for our AP to come back, and then we can take on this guy. And here's a critical that should take a lot of care. And here we go. As long as we're locked on, we might as well take a shot to this guy here. So as you can see, we are getting a lot of shots in on our body from time to time, but it's not as if we're incapable of dealing with situations. So we're fairly efficient for what we are. I mean, after all, we're still a gunslinger, and we're depending on VETS crits a lot. But I went for the safe approach, which you will see in the perks. So I went for critical savvy and tried to just, in order to get a better feeling of how often I'm going to get crits, I didn't focus on chance-based effects, but rather focused on filling my critical meter as fast as possible. So one thing that should be said is that I'm currently not using any legendary perks, and I try to use this character with legendary luck in order to max out my luck. And I do have the suspicion that with maxed out luck and all the perks I can use there, I should be able to refill my critical meter within 1 shot instead of 2. That would really boost our efficiency, I gotta say. But I decided to make the video at this point here without legendary perks in order to keep it somewhat casually. And as you saw during the video, we're not weak or anything. Obviously it's no competition if we're trying to compare this character here to a commander weapon or something, or a heavy gunner. There's simply no reason to do that. I mean, those guys would win the competition every day. But if you wanna feel like a gunslinger, this one really brings home the point. The big ammo capacity really helps us out, and the crits do feel like you're really playing another Fallout game from an older time, if I might say so myself. So we do have one auto-stim piece, by the way, which procs fairly often, as you saw in the video, so we're burning passively through stim packs quite a lot. But as I said earlier, stim packs aren't hard to come by, especially with the daily ops nowadays. So Now I think we're finally finished here, and now we're going to take a look at our perks and our mutations and such. Starting off with our special here, looking at the mutations. We do have Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Marsupial, Speed Demon, and Unstable Isotope. Unstable Isotope, for those of you who've seen the last video, is a leftover from another character which I don't really need, but as we're not using stealth it doesn't hurt us either, so I left it in. Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Marsupial, and Speed Demon all are in there to boost our agility, our perception, give us better crit damage, and overall just help us with being more agile and quick. So we're losing out on quite a lot of strength, but we're not utilizing it in any way, so that's not a problem. Adrenal Reaction would be could be a good choice here, but I decided to not use it because I tend to use it very often, and in this case here I felt like it wasn't necessary. So for those of you who are interested, here's the special stats. So strength is at 1, it can't be lower, so we would be usually at like -6 or something. So that's why the negatives from our mutations aren't that important anyway. What's important here, our perception is at 16, which is pretty good, and our agility at 21. Our luck at 10, which is also pretty nice. And here we have intelligence, charisma, and endurance. So we currently get a little buff, I think, from our unyielding pieces. We have 2 or 3 equipped. Let's take another look. Nope, we were already out of... yeah, we weren't boosted, so this is our stats. Onto the equipment. Here is the weapon I told you. Quad Western revolver with better VETS criticals and a VETS critical meter that fills faster. So pretty cool gun, and honestly it's a shame that with how perfect the perks, the effects work together, that the weapon doesn't perform better. But well, I really like the gun, I don't know why. Our second weapon here that we did use was this here 2-shot limb damage missile launcher. For those of you who don't know, 2-shot on explosive weapons, not the legendary effect, but really explosive weapons, meaning grenade launchers, missile launchers, and the Fat Man. The 2-shot effect basically doubles their damage, as the damage of a explosive weapon in this game is basically always 1. So if you're hitting an enemy, you deal 1 damage. That's why VETS crits and stealth attacks don't do anything for those type of weapons. But after that, the explosion comes, and the explosion carries the 789 damage you see on screen right now. So that's why 2 shots still doubles the damage on explosive weapons, because the explosive part which carries the whole damage. Well, anyways, just as a side note here. Onto our apparel. Here is the auto-stim piece that I told you about, boosting our luck, which is pretty cool on our character. Then we have 3 unyielding pieces here. This one is a level 10. This one is max level, but both have chem weight reduction. So you can see here we're not running around with some high-end gear. It's pretty basic overall. I decided to use unyielding so that during fights we get a little bit more AP, which we can then use, and I think it worked out pretty well. Last weapon armor piece here is basically unlegendary, so you can see the equipment is relatively cheap here. Perfect world, 1 auto-stim piece and a few pieces with AP refresh would be nice, but I felt like unyielding was a good fit here, even though we're not running around at low health. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at our perks here. So strength at 5, only to use some carry weight perks, you know the thrill by now, just use whatever you like here. There's nothing we need for our character, it's just for convenience here. Onto perception, tank killer, now boosting pistols too, so that is a must-have for better armor penetration and a staggered chance. Crack shot, while we're using our pistols most of the time in VETS, so we don't benefit from it at all, but for these occasions that I told you, where you want to start off with a sneak critical or something, crack shot can be nice, and we want fairly high perception anyway, so it doesn't hurt us at all. Concentrated fire at rank 3, basically making sure that at least our second hit should hit the target most of the times. And then we had 2 points left here in perception, which I used for fire in the hole on grenadier, which we don't have any perks that boost our damage from thrown weapons, but especially plasma grenades or Nuka-Cola quantum grenades, they do carry a lot of damage, so they can be fairly useful even if you not invest into them. And with fire in the hole and grenadier, you can see here we're getting a throwing arc, which makes us do more precise throws and give them a little bit more of a radius. Let's go on here. Endurance 7, fairly basic. Adamantium skeleton is pretty much a must-have because we don't want to get crippled in a fight. We want to be always on the move, as I told you. Cola Nut and Good Doggy here are convenience perks, simply to keep us fed easier and well fed and hydrated. And rank 2 of Fireproof is enough for our means here. Rank 4 Charisma, Lone Wanderer, we want AP refresh and the extra damage resistance. Onto Intelligence, batteries included, Gunsmith and Weapon Artisan. So, Weapon Artisan shouldn't have been here, I wanted First Aid usually. That's just, yeah, that was a mistake, so this was how the build was planned. That might explain why we burned through so much Stimpaks too. Anyways, batteries included and First Aid, as you obviously saw, isn't really necessary for the build to work. Gunsmith, I do advise you to use it, but it's up to you. I used a 2-shot Vets Crit revolver. It was pretty much unusable without Gunsmith, but with the quad one you could probably avoid using it. This would be perfect in order to use Demolitions Expert here, but that's up to you. I needed batteries included, and therefore I didn't have a better way to distribute my perk points here, but you could easily use Gunsmith, Demolitions Expert and 1 rank of First Aid. That should be more than enough. Onto Agility, we have Action Boy, Master Gunslinger, Through Hiker, Gunslinger, Expert Gunslinger and Gun Fu. So, Through Hiker, same as with batteries included. In a perfect world, don't use Through Hiker and instead use 3 ranks of Gun Fu, but, well, or Adrenaline would be a good pick, but that's not necessary here. What we want is the better AP refresh and 3 ranks of Gunslinger maxed out. And on to luck, this is where our most damage comes from. We have better criticals, which synergizes very well with our legendary effect on the weapon. Starch Jeans is pretty much a must-have, you know, like we want to keep our mutations. Critical Savvy here, this makes it so that when we hit someone with a critical, we start with a 45% filled critical meter, which means that we can refill our critical meter with 2 hits. So, as I said earlier, you could go instead for something like 4-leaf clover or something, especially if you invest more into luck and have more points, so you can not only use 4-leaf clover but psychopath and such. It might be beneficial, but I wanted to go for the safe approach here in order to get criticals on a constant basis. Every 3rd shot is a critical, and you really feel that, and knowing that every third shot is a critical really makes it so that after a while of playing the character you get a good feeling how to tackle enemies in order to plan ahead. So it's hard to explain, but trust me, you get there if you play. You get a feeling for the character. It's not that you have to think about when to use a critical. So last here is Grim Reaper Sprint. Only at rank 1. I wanna upgrade that with more legendary luck to rank 3 in order to have a better chance, so we can stay in vets for a long time. But that's it for today. I feel like this is a bit of a longer video. I can't ultimately tell, but I just have a slight feeling that it is. So nah, not change it. Just wanna get rid of the HUD. Guys, that was it. This was today's build. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, there's a lot of room for improvement here if we're going to min-max a little bit. If you want to see it, let me know, because I'm going to work on this character, as I said, with legendary perks and such, and really want to see how much better we can get him to work. So if you want to see that when the character is min-maxed and completely worked out, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I wish you a nice day and thanks for watching my video. Bye.